Hello, stamping friends. I'm Terry Hartley at Rustic Barn Cards. Welcome. So today I have several cards that I'm going to share with you, and we're going to make a couple of cards using two different stamp sets and a sentiment from another stamp set, which is exactly what you can do. So look at what you have in your stash and you can kind of pick and choose. So we're going to use some holiday cards, but we're going to make thank you cards. Although I'm going to show you by just changing the sentiment, you can use these as Christmas cards too. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in the United States. And if this is the first time that you've joined me, welcome. And thank you to those of you returning. So please click that subscribe button down below and subscribe to my channel. That helps me bring the videos to you, and I'm trying to grow my channel. So let me turn the camera down and let's do some stamping. Before we get started stamping, I want to kind of catch you up on everything that's going on. The Last Chance Products is going on right now through January 3rd. And this is from the July through December mini catalog. And of course, when the product is gone, it is gone. So some of the items are carrying over, but the ones that are retiring, and we call it the last chance, but we used to call it the retiring list, a lot of them are on sale. So you can go over to my web page, www.rusticbarncards.com. So rusticbarncards.com, and you can click and see the list. And that is going on right now through January 3rd. And then I wanted to tell you about a new club I'm starting in January 2022, and it's going to be a monthly stamps club, and the cost is $30, and for that $30 you will receive a stamp set, a video tutorial, and a card kit for 6 cards. And you can register and sign up again on my web page at www.rusticbarncards.com. And the January stamp set that I have chosen to use is Love and Happiness, and that is from our brand new January 2022 mini catalog. Now, right now, I can only show you the cover. This is our January to June 2022 mini catalog. If you do not have a demonstrator, you do not have a catalog, reach out to me, contact me, and the information is in the description down below, and I would be glad to send you the new mini catalog along with the celebration that will be going on January and February of 2022. But if you already have a demonstrator, then these do cost, and I don't mind sending if you need one. But if you have a demonstrator, then of course reach out to them. But this is the brand new catalog, and that is what my monthly stamps club, the new stamp set that I'm going to use for January, will be in this new mini catalog. And you can register for that, sign up for that right now on my web page. And on December 3rd, I had a Zoom crafty party, and we had a lot of fun. And I'm going to offer another Zoom card class on January 28th from 6 to 8 p.m. And I'm going to be using the Sweet Conversations, which is another new stamp set out of our new mini catalog. And the cost is $40. You will receive some product. You'll receive a roll of ribbon, rhinestones, designer series paper, a card kit, and tutorials. Now, for the January card class, you will not receive the stamp set Sweet Conversations, but you can add it on to the card class fee of $40. So $40, we'll jump on Zoom. You'll receive ribbon, rhinestones, designer series paper, card kit, and written tutorials, as well as we will craft together on Zoom on January 28th. You do need to register by January 9th, which gives me time to make up your kits and get them mailed to you, so you'll have them for our Zoom meeting on the 28th of January. And again, go to my web page to sign up. And then the last thing, I want you to save the date for an online global retreat. A demonstrator from Australia and Canada and myself, I live in the United States. We are going to have an online global retreat, one day only. It'll be for the United States and Canada, Saturday, February 12th. So if you live in the United States, you would sign up under me. If you live in Canada, you'll be signing up under the demonstrator in Canada. And if you live in Australia, you'll be signing up in Australia. And of course, that date is different because they're one day ahead. So the retreat is February 13th, 2022. So more information will be coming soon about how you can register for our online global retreat. All right, let's start stamping. So today I'm going to be using the Evergreen Elegance to make a card. And then I'm also going to use Perfectly Plaid to make a card. And I'm going to be using the Tidings of Christmas Designer Series paper. And I just noticed that right now you cannot order it. It's on back order and you're not able to order it. But I do, you could use any Designer Series paper that you have, though, to make these cards. And I do have another card to share with you that I used different Designer Series paper that you can order. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to be using, for the first two cards, we're going to use Real Red and Evening Evergreen. You also will need a sheet of basic white and a cardstock and another Evening Evergreen cardstock. And you'll need one 6x6 to make our first card. And I'm going to use this Designer Series paper from the Tidings of Christmas. And I have some other cards to show you using a different Designer Series paper. So I believe I have at least 3 or 4 cards to show you. So stick with me to the end. The Evening Evergreen is going to be our card base. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in our trimmer. And I wanted to go ahead and make this entire card for you. I often already have these pieces cut. But if you're a beginner stamper, sometimes it helps to see all of the steps. So, and our trimmer has 2 blades. The darker blade is the cutting blade. And then it also has a lighter blade, which is our scoring blade. And they both slide out of the way. So I'm going to lay, so this will make 2 cards, and we're going to make 2 cards today using the Evening Evergreen. I'm going to bring in our basic white, and I'm going to cut this at 4 inches, and we're going to be making the layer for inside of our card. And then I'm going to turn this and place it at 5 1/4. And then I'm going to go ahead and cut for both of our cards now. So I'm going to go ahead and cut again. At 5 1/4. Or, excuse me, I'm cutting at 4. I was talking, so let me try that again. I'm cutting at 4 and then 5 1/4. So we have 2 basic white for the inside of both our cards. I'll be using this for our sentiment, so I'm going to lay that aside. And then I am going to need Evening Evergreen. So actually, I could use these for both of our card bases, but I'm going to use one for our card base of our first card, and then I'm going to go ahead and use the other half for our card. So we need Evening Evergreen 3 1/4 by 3 1/4, so we need a square. So I'll line that up and turn, and 3 1/4. Whoop. Be better if I stuck with the cutting blade. And then again, like I said, we're going to go ahead, and if you're making multiples, that's what you want to do, is go ahead and just cut for your multiples and then be able to put them together. So we're going to do Evening Evergreen 3 1/4 by 3 1/4 because we're making 2 cards tonight. And then we're going to bring in our basic white, and we're going to have a 3 by 3 inch square. And again, we're going to cut 2 of those. And this will be another sentiment piece that I can stamp. And so 3 by 3, so I'll need 2 of those, 1 for each of our cards. And now we need to cut our sentiment, or not our sentiment, we need to cut our Designer Series paper. So I'm going to bring in our Designer Series paper, and you can either use 5 1/4 by 4. I'm going to show you a card where I did that, but we're going to make, both of these cards are going to be 2 inches. And I'm going to go ahead and cut 2 inches. And then I'm going to turn this, and 5 1/4 long. And then this is 2 inches, and I'm going to turn and trim this at 5 1/4. And that is all the cutting we need, and we have everything we need for 2 cards, except we need 1 more card base. So I'm going to bring another 8 1/2 by 11 card base in, and I'm going to place this at 5 1/2. Because I did cut 2 card bases, but then I used half of it for our layering pieces. So this would make 2 card bases, but we just need 1 more. So I'll use this for another card. Okay, let me move this out of the way, and let's start putting our card together. Now I could have scored our card base, but I just kind of like to just go ahead and fold it in half, and I just make sure it's even, and I fold it, and then I bring in my bone folder to make a crisp edge. And I'm going to do that with both of our Evening Evergreen card base. So I want to make sure I get that lined up. And then bring in our bone folder. I'm going to set this one aside, and we'll come back to that later. So I divided up what we need. We're going to go ahead and add our layer in our card base. But first I want to bring in our Evening Evergreen Elegance, and I'm going to be using this stamp right here. And I already have it on a block. And I'm going to bring in Evening Evergreen, and I want to stamp on our inside layer. And I'm going to do that before I place it in our card base. That way, if I do mess up, I can turn the basic white layer over. And I'm just going to place this right here on the left. I'm going to press even pressure and hold it, and then straight up. I'm going to clean my block. I'm going to lay this aside. And then I'm going to bring in our 3x3 square of basic white. And I'm going to ink up our tree. I'm going to do second generation stamping, and I'll explain what that is if you don't know what that is. So right now, though, I'm full strength. I'm just inking up our tree, making sure that I have it nice and good. And I'm going to make sure I have nice ink applied everywhere, and it looks like I do. And I'm going to raise it up a little bit higher towards the top. I'm going to leave a little bit there, but a little bit more to the top. I'm going to try to place about right in the middle. And again, I'm applying even pressure on the stamp. Hold it there a second, and then I'm going to put my hand on the cardstock and straight up. And this time I'm going to not add any more ink. And then I'm going to go ahead and stamp over to the left, and that's called second generation. Now this next time I'm going to ink up our tree. And then I'm going to bring in a scrap. And I'm going to stamp off onto the scrap paper. I'm going to stamp off again. And then I'm going to add it to our card. And then we have several trees there, but I wanted them kind of different shades. I'm going to lay that aside, and then we are going to add our 5 1/4 by 4 layer inside of our card. I'm going to bring in some liquid glue, and sometimes it kind of clunks up right there. You can just kind of peel that off. And this might be the one that is about empty. If it is, I have another one handy, but no, it's going to work. So we'll just apply some adhesive, make sure we get around the edges. And then we'll line this up. Leave me a comment if you like these cards. Let me know. If you're a new stamper, I'm going to bring in this designer series paper, and that was 2 by 5 1/4. And I'm going to go ahead and add adhesive. I really like the liquid glue because you do have a little bit where you can move it a little bit if you need to, but don't set it up like this because it will dry out. So kind of lay it, when you're using it, lay it down. When you're storing it, I store mine upside down. And then I want to, on the designer series paper, I want to make sure that I have it straight. And then I have a border of the evening evergreen showing. And now I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to add this on here. This is a quick and easy card, but I really like using the designer series paper. I think it just kind of gives it a pop of color. So I'm going to get that even as I can. And I'm going to turn this over, and we're going to add some dimensionals. It's always good after you add the dimensionals, make sure you press them down before you take the backings off. That way they will adhere better. those out of the way and bring in our card. I'm going to turn this over, and I'm going to place it about in the middle of my card. Maybe a little more to the right than to the left. You can just place it however you would like. And again, as straight as I can. And now we're ready to stamp our sentiment. Now I am making thank you cards, but if you wanted a Christmas card, you could choose the Merry Christmas from the Evergreen Elegance. I am actually going to use Sweet Ice Cream stamp set, and I'm going to use the thank you. I'm going to use Real Red. And I have my thank you already on a block. And I'm just going to stamp that right there. Close this up. And I'm going to bring in my snips. Because I am going to cut around the sentiment. You could, you wouldn't have to do that. You could use a punch. You can just go ahead and use your trimmer. So there's lots of different ways. I'm trying to just move my cardstock, turn my cardstock, and not my scissors. And there we have thank you. And I'm going to turn this over and pop it up with some dimensionals. And turn that over. And then I'm going to place this to the left, down here below the pine trees, or evergreen trees. Right like that. And then I'm going to bring in our wonderful gems. And my Take Your Pick tool. If you do not have the Take Your Pick tool, I would suggest that you need to put this on your list, because I'm not sure I could craft without it now that I have one and I use one. And you have a little cap, and you have a spatula, which will pick up gems. And then you just turn this. And it goes right in there, and you turn it to close it, and you have a little piercing. And then this side you have putty. And that's what I'm going to use, the putty edge, to pick up. And as you can see, this is my third package of wonderful gems. And I've been using a lot of the smaller ones. And I'm going to place one right up here. And then I think I'm going to place a large one. And then a smaller one up here in the corner. And this is our first card. Thank you. But we want to stamp on our envelope, right? Now we could add some designer series paper here if we wanted to, but I am just going to bring back the Evergreen Elegance, or the Evening Evergreen. Evergreen Elegance is the name of the stamp set, and Evening Evergreen is the name of the ink color. Now I'm going to bring in a stamp from the Evergreen Elegance stamp set, the one that we use for our card, and ink this up. And then I'm going to place it over to the left and give it even pressure, and then straight up. So now we have our card, and we have our envelope that matches. And here's a thank you card. This would be a nice thank you card to send after Christmas to people that sent you a gift. Or, again, you can change the sentiment to Merry Christmas or a holiday and send it as a Christmas card too. So let me make the second card, and we're going to use a different stamp set. For my second card, I'm going to be using Perfectly Plaid. I'm going to use this stamp set right here. I could definitely use Merry Christmas, or May the special season be wrapped in love and joy, or any of the other North Pole delivery, or hoping that your busy year comes together in Christmas cheer. So I could use any of those sentiments, but again, I'm going to stick with thank you, because I need some thank you cards for some customers. Well, let me set this aside and let's go ahead. And again, we have our card base, Evening Evergreen, and I'm going to bring in that layer, and I'm going to use the same color, Evening Evergreen, only I'm using a different tree from the Perfectly Plaid. So I'm going to go ahead and ink this up. And then I have 4 other cards that are different that I want to share with you, so stick with me. So we'll place that right here. And we'll just go ahead and add this to our card base. So I may not be going in the same order as I went on the first card. And you don't have to. You do want to do your stamping, though, before you place it on your card. So I'm going to get that lined up. The basic white. And I think it needs to go over just a little bit. Guess you can't see that. Sorry about that. Then I'll press it down. And I'll lay this aside. And I'm going to bring in our 3x3 basic white. And we're going to do some stamping. And I'm going to go ahead and ink up our little tree. Now this stamp set is photopolymer, which means you can see through the stamp. And again, I'm going to place it in the middle. Straight down. And then second generation, I'm going to go ahead and bring that down a little bit. And then I'm going to go ahead and ink this up. Only this time, I'm just going to stamp off once. And see how it has that little bit of a circle in that. When it does that, I'm going to clean my stamp and then ink it up again. So I clean my stamp, and then I'm going to ink this up again. And then I'm going to stamp off. And then I am going to stamp on. Then I'm going to ink this up again. And I'm going to stamp off. And then I am going to stamp about right here with part of it on the basic white card and part of it off. So I'm adding a few more trees. Make a little forest here. So again, I'm going to stamp off. And I'm going to stamp off again. And then I'm going to put this a little higher over here on the left. Give it good even pressure. And I'm not sure that I really like that tree right here. Okay, we're going to try it one more time. So we're going to stamp this in the middle. And then we're going to stamp it off to the left. Just second generation. And then I'm going to ink this up again. And stamp it off. And on. And then I'm going to ink it up one more time. This time I want it lighter, so I'm going to stamp off. I'm going to stamp off one more time. And then I'm going to stamp over here on the right. Okay, I like that. It looks better. So we have our 2 by 5 1/4. I've added some adhesive. And I'm going to turn that over and place that right on our card base. Get that straight. See how you can still move that a little bit before you press it down, which is good, right? And then we will bring in our Evening Evergreen, which is 3 1/4 by 3 1/4, and we're going to add our basic white 3 by 3 layer. And then we're going to turn this over and pop it up with some dimensionals. And you could make the Evening Evergreen and the basic white a 1/4 less. So you can make the Evening Evergreen 3 by 3 and make the basic white 2 3/4 by 2 3/4, because the trees are a little bit shorter than in Perfectly Plaid than they are on the Evergreen Elegance stamp set that we used for the first card. So I feel like I need to raise it up just a little bit to make sure that's even. The same amount above and below. Okay, so we pop that up with dimensionals, and we want to stamp our sentiment. So I'm going to bring in basic white scrap that I had from when we cut our card pieces. I'm going to open up Real Red, and I'm going to go ahead and bring back Thank You, but you certainly could use any of the sentiments and whatever you have. And again, I have 4 different cards to show you. And I'm just going to go ahead and cut around this. And this sentiment is from Sweet Ice Cream stamp set. Sometimes if you have too much cardstock, it's just easier to go ahead and cut it off. And then I kind of like to go around that T and make this kind of round at the end here. So just however you do it is fine. And then we're going to turn this over and add some dimensionals. And this time, last time we put our sentiment over on the left, we're going to place this in the middle of our card at the bottom. Because we have more white space here. So we're going to kind of place that right in the middle. And I'm going to bring in those wonderful gems again. And my Take Your Pick tool. And I like adding, I'm going to use a small one, and put that right at the top of the tree in the middle. And I think that's all I'm going to add. It's just that one right there, and you can add more gems if you want. Okay, so let me bring, and again, we can stamp an envelope with our pine tree. So I have an envelope. I'm going to ink up our pine tree from Perfectly Plaid. Place that over on the left. Give it a good pressure. Straight up. And here we have our second card. This is our first card that we made. And then let me show you the other 4. This card here, I use the same layout, only I use Thank You from the Peaceful Deer stamp set. Well, I thought I did, but I guess not. So let me see which one I used. I apologize. I have too many. I'm working on some card class and some designs. So this Thank You is actually from Nature's Harvest right here. So I use a Thank You from Nature's Harvest. But I wanted to show you that you can use what you have. And then I used Evergreen Elegance for this card. So I'm going to move this card over. And I use a different designer series paper for this third card than I did the cards that we did today. But all the designer series paper on these three cards are from Tidings of Christmas. On this next card, I went ahead and used designer series paper as the entire layer of my card. So it was a 5 1/4 by 4, and I placed it on the front of the card. So rather than the 2 by 5 1/4, I used 5 1/4 by 4, and I used the thank you from Nature's Harvest. This card I did not go ahead and stamp inside, and some of them I did and some I didn't. So maybe you like the 2-inch, or maybe you like the full designer series paper. Let me know which one that you like the best, using the 2-inch designer series paper or the full. And then I have another thank you card, and this time I used the Perfectly Plaid stamp set, and I used the thank you like I did on tonight's card, using the Sweet Ice Cream. And then my last card I wanted to show you is that I used the same layout, but I used different designer series paper. And I used the Evergreen Elegance, but I used the Gingerbread and Peppermint designer series paper, which is in the mini catalog. And it is retiring, so if you like that, I would be buying it before it is gone. And I used Old Olive card base. And I used Merry Christmas from the Evergreen Elegance. So I used the tree, and I used Merry Christmas. And the designer series paper is from the Gingerbread and Peppermint. So here are some quick and easy, and they can be thank you cards. They can be Merry Christmas cards. They can be winter cards. They can be happy birthday. If you know someone who has a birthday in winter, this would be perfect for that too. Let me know which card that you like the best. Please subscribe by clicking that subscribe button down below. I'm Terry Hartley at Rustic Barn Cards. Check out my blog. I'll have pictures and measurements there for these cards. And have a great day. Thank you for watching.